Very, very exciting because we are starting Sefer Shemos, and it's it's always hard because the beginning of the Sefer is difficult, right? I mean, we know that last week we were the king of Egypt, and this week we're going into Gullus. So it's a little bit, the Alter Rebbe always says, right, live with the times. So the truth is that we it feels appropriate to be reading Sefer Shemos right now. We're all, at least here in Israel, we're going into lockdown. Well, everybody here is in Israel with me, so we're going. It looks like we're going into another lockdown. So that's like a version of Gullus, I would say. Besides the big picture Gullus that we're in, it's another version, another level, another aspect of Gullus. So we're reading Sefer Shemos, but I hope tonight we'll explore one of the ideas that will really give us some chizuk about going into the Sefer and going down to Egypt and the whole idea of Gullus, bichlal. Okay, so I'm gonna start sharing the screen so that everybody can see the page. Now, the truth is that I kind of messed everybody up because I sent out the source sheet and then I was going over it and I made some changes. So there's just a couple of changes. So if you don't have the source that you want, I made like one. I took off something and I added something else. So I'm happy to send it out like the final version afterwards. And anyway, it'll be on the screen here in front of you. So actually, that's the end of the sheet. Okay, so we'll start with the very first pasuk in Shemos, which of course reads Ve'ela Shemos Bnei Yisrael. These are the names of Bnei Yisrael, meaning right Yaakov's children, the sons of Yisrael. Haba'im Mitzrayma, who now Art Scroll obviously translated it, and we generally translate it as who came to Egypt. But the truth is that, and one of the pieces that we're going to be talking about today is that Haba'im is not in past tense. Haba'im is in, what's it called? Like continuous tense. What's it called? Like a present participle or something like that. Continuing, it's called something. Present perfect. I don't know. You're shaking your head, Shira, like you're an English teacher. Are you an English teacher? Yes, you don't know. Okay. I think it's called like the gerund when you're like doing something continuously, but don't quote me on that. I'm trying to channel Mrs. Witherington from 11th grade, so I'm not sure that that's going well. But Haba'im Mitzrayma is certainly not past tense. It's either are coming to Egypt or come to Egypt, present tense. Something like that. So, Eis Yaakov Ishu Beiso Ba'u, each coming with his, right? They come to Mitzrayim with Yaakov, each coming with his household. And then we have the names, the Shemot of the Shvatim, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Binyamin, Dan, V'Naftali, Gad, V'Asher. Vayhi kol nefesh yotzei yerech Yaakov. The total number of persons that were coming out of Yaakov, Shiv'im nafesh veYosef haya b'Mitzrayim. There were 70 souls, right? But it's in singular. And Yosef was already in Mitzrayim, okay? So obviously there's a lot to say about that, and many shirim have been done over the years of on the way that sentence is phrased. What we're going to focus on today is the fact that the names are listed here. And then we're going to talk about names today. That's the inyan of our shir, okay? What a name is, and particularly why these names are listed here again. And of course, this whole book is called Shemos, right? Names. So I hope that the idea of names will kind of carry us through the whole Sefer. So what does Rashi say? Right away, we go right to Rashi. Ve'ele Shemos Bnei Yisrael. Ele Shemos Bnei Yisrael. And he says, Afal Pi, I've been practicing my Rashi script this week, and I'm sitting here with the Sefer open in front of me. I have it in regular Hebrew script on the screen. I'm reading it for, okay. I'm going to read it with you. Af al pi shemina'an v'chayehem bishmotam. So even though Hashem counted them by their names in their lifetime, meaning we just had this at the end of Sefer Bereshit, right? The end of Sefer Bereshit is this exact same narrative. Yaakov comes down with his sons, and these are their names, and their names are listed. So Ki'ilu, like last Shabbos, if anybody had been in shul, if we had all been in shul, and we would have read Mincha, then we would have read on the very same day, almost the exact same psukim at the end of Sefer Bereshit and the beginning of Sefer Shemos. So there's a question, right? Why do these names have to be repeated? Here, we just read them. And Rashi says, although he counts them by their names in their lifetime, Rashi's quoting the Midrash, Chazar mina'am b'mitatam. He goes back and he counts them again after their death. Lehodia chibatam. And this is the beautiful part. And this is like what we're going to focus on today, to tell us, to make it known, to publicize chibatam, how precious they are, how beloved they are to him, to Hashem. Shenim shalu lekochavim, and Bnei Israel are compared to the stars. And he's quoting here from the Midrash, and then he's going to quote Sefer Yeshayahu. Shemotziam umachnisam bamispar ubishmotam. And the Midrash says that the stars are taken out, ki'ilu, like every night, Hashem is redecorating the sky, and he puts this star here, and he puts that star there, and he puts that star over there, and as he's putting them up, he's counting them, and he's naming them. You know, he's like recognizing them and acknowledging them. Every single time he takes them out and he puts them up into the sky. And in the Midrash, it goes on, he says, you know, and every morning he takes them back and he puts them away, like Ki'ilu, like I have a little set of china that was that belonged to my grandmother, Allah Shalom. I don't know, Mommy, are you on here? Oh, there you are. Okay, hi. So I have this little set of baby china that it's like it's almost like a little doll set. It's kind of like a little mini set. And you know, I never use it because it was my grandmother's, and I don't have so many things from her. Baruch Hashem, I have this, and it was from, you know, it was from Germany. It was a long story about it, but basically, whenever I do take it out, it's all wrapped up in, you know, tissue paper, and I have like one of those special dish cases, you know, with the padding, with the zipper on it, and every piece has its own little place. And every time I take it out, I unwrap it very, very carefully, and I, you know, show it to my children, and I like don't let them touch it, you know, and I'm like hold my breath as it's out, and then, you know, wrap it up again, and I put it away. And you know, there's something very, very you know, tangible about that. And that's the way the Midrash is talking about how Hashem takes out the stars every single day and puts them up in the sky. And then when he puts them away, he wraps them up, and he individually, and he says, like, you know, have a good sleep, you know, bracha star, and you know, I don't know, Menashe star, I don't know, all these things, right? Like he's counting them and he's naming them. And that's, the nimshal is Bnei Israel, that every night when we go to sleep, right? Like we give up like a little bit of our soul, right? Goes up to Shamayim. And then the next day, Hashem, you know, puts it back into us. And that's the whole idea of Moda'ani Lefanecha, right? That when we wake up in the morning, it's because my soul, each one of us, our soul has been put back into our body. And the whole idea is that this is a daily and nightly activity that Hashem does. And as he's doing it, he's counting, and he's naming, and he's recognizing, and he's showing all this to the concept being that we should understand how precious we are to him. And so that's why the names are listed here at the beginning of Sefer Shemos, because each one was so precious to Hashem that he counted them and he named them in their life, and he's counting them and he names them in their death. just like he does with the stars. And then he goes on and Rashi quotes this pasuk. So I've actually brought the pasuk down here. So I'll just jump right down here to the pasuk from the source, that this is the quote from the end of Rashi. Su'u marom einechem, lift up your eyes high and see. Mi bara, who created the world, right? Who created these? It's a whole list of different things that Hashem has, the greatness of Hashem in this world. And, lift up your eyes and see, Ele hamotzi b'mispar tzva'am, that he who, motzi is like takes out, right? By their number, meaning like each individual by its number, but they form a whole, army, ki'ilu. Lekulam b'shem yikra, but Hashem calls them or knows them or refers to them, each one by name. Meirov onim ve'amitz koach ish lo ne'edar. And through his great might and his vast power, no one disappears, right? And I love that quote, because so much of, I'm going to stop this for 1 second so I can see all of you, that so much of our challenge is on a daily basis to see how each one of us is actually special, how each one of us is unique. And there's really a beautiful parallel that I actually just saw. It's so funny. I didn't include it originally in the shir, but Baruch Hashem, I've been watching these Aleph Beta videos. I can send out a link to the specific one, but if you go to the Aleph Beta website, there's a certain amount of minutes that you can watch for free every month. So this was just a really nice, a nice little idea that Rabbi Foreman on that video, he talks about how what other big time, like famous time, and feel free to unmute and jump in if you, or write it on the chat or whatever, but like, can you remember where Am Yisrael, are the idea of stars are compared to Am Yisrael, right? Or you can just mouth it to me. There we go.
Avraham Avinu.
Avraham Avinu. Okay, good. Thank you. Also, Gaby, I saw your mouth moving. So that when Hashem promises Avraham and Sarah, let's say also, that they're, they are gonna have children and they are gonna be a great nation. So that's the comparison, right? Hashem says, go out and count the stars and you'll see, and that's how numerous your children are gonna be. But one of the like the language there is count the stars if you can, right? And a lot of the Mefarshim there say, like, of course, counting the stars is an impossible thing. So how awesome, right? Jews are going to be so numerous that they can't even be counted. But the truth is, and this is what Rabbi Foreman says, that from our perspective, stars can't be counted, but from Hashem's perspective, they can be, and they are. Every single day and every single night, Hashem counts them and calls them and speaks to them. And, it's like Hashem's classroom up there, are you here? Are you here? Are you here? He's like calling roll. And to him, he's so great, he's infinite, that it's not such a big deal. He can do that. And so that's how we need to see ourselves, that just like Hashem treats each individual star as precious as a diamond, so each one of us is also so precious to him. And that's why this book, which is the book of Galus, essentially, begins with this concept of naming us, because it's very, very important for us to know that, that Hashem is going down there with us, and he's going down there with he's sending us with his love for a specific purpose. And we'll get into the purpose a little bit later. But that's the idea of the of that Rashi. Okay, so we'll go back to the source sheet. Okay, and go down to a beautiful concept about names from the Baal Shem Tov. Now, I don't often get to bring a Baal Shem Tov here, Keser Shem Tov. Of course, the Baal Shem Tov didn't write down his own teachings. His students wrote down his teachings. So they all basically start like Mehabesh, like from the I learned from the Besh. The Keser Shem Tov is a collection of things that the Baal Shem Tov's Talmidim either wrote down or taught in his name, and then they were written down later on. So he says on this pasuk, "Ve'ele Shemos b'nei Yisrael, kamo shetfisas haguf hu begishme she'ochez begufo. So the same way that if you want to like touch if you want to capture, let's say, or you want to get the feel of a body, so you touch the body, right? Like if I want to hold a book, so then I physically hold the book, and I am connecting, sort of, let's say, I am grasping the book. I am holding the book. Kach tfisat haneshama hu al yedei kriyas shmo. So the same way, if you want to, hold or grasp or touch a neshama, a soul. So the way to do that is by calling someone's name. When you call someone's name, you are actually, touching the essence of their soul. You're actually, it's like shooting an arrow straight into, the essence of who they are. And you're making a connection to them in a very, very deep way. And he says, Gam b'yashan ni'or mishanato b'kar oshmo. That even from sleep, you can wake someone up you wake someone up from their sleep by calling their name. And famously, the idea about the Baal Shem Tov, I think it was brought down from the Maggid, if I'm not mistaken, but it could have been, it could have been someone else, where he said that the Baal Shem Tov's name was Yisrael, and the point of it was Hashgacha Pratis, that the Baal Shem Tov's name was Yisrael, because the Baal Shem Tov came into this world at a time when Am Yisrael were asleep, essentially, and they were not able to awaken themselves or arouse themselves really to be excited for the service, to serve Hashem, because of the difficulties that they were having physically in their lives. And therefore they were basically like asleep in their connection to Hashem. And so the Baal Shem Tov, or Yisrael, was brought into the world because through calling the name Yisrael, Am Yisrael woke up. So that's one of the they always say, like, if someone faints, right, you should call their name. You should call their Jewish name, their real name. I was not always known as Shoshana. I have an English name, which I'm not going to say right now. But it's very, very, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, was very, very machmir. It was very, I don't want to say machmir. I want to say the Rebbe was very interested and very encouraging of people to go by their Hebrew name, by the name that they were named by the Torah, because of this idea, because a name, there is a like a koach elyon, an energy highway, let's say, an energy pathway that is drawn down to each and every one of us through the use of our name. There's something about the name. The Arizal teaches that parents have some level of Ruach HaKodesh when they name their child, because the name goes with the soul, because the name is like the portal to the soul, both, from on an internal level, like the Koach Elyon, like an upper force of strength comes down to that soul through this pathway that's set up by the name, and also that the person, this is how they're going to be revealed to the world. This is how they're going to connect to the world. It's through this pathway of this name. And so the name is not just, I like this and I like that. Like it might sound like that in the conversation, the mother says, the mother says this and the father says that, my side of the family, my side of the family, I like this, that's an Altacocker name, like I want a new name, whatever, all of those things, that might be what the conversation sounds like on the surface. But all of the Sfarim HaKadoshim tell us that underlying it all is that the very idea of a name comes to a parent through Ruach HaKodesh. So why does she like this name? Because there's a form of Ruach HaKodesh there. Why does he like this name? Because there's a form of Ruach HaKodesh. Now, it when it comes down to it, it's really, about the name that's actually given, and not, all the names that are discussed. but that in naming a child that name, you set up that pathway for that child to receive the energy that's designated, through that name, by that name. And of course, it's not just the name itself, it's also all the letters that make up the name, and it's the nikudot that make up the name. There's lots of Kabbalah with names. I'm not baki in it at all, but I do know, that this is what the Sfarim tell us. So I can't tell any of you, what it means, what your name means, but there are sources, there are Mekubalim who could do that. But I can say that your name gives you koach on a daily basis. So one of the beautiful, I wanted to just say one more thing. If you look at the word neshama, right? So it's nun, shin, mem, hey, and the middle two letters are shem. So it's there's this very much this idea that your shame is in the middle of your neshama. It's the heart of your neshama. Also, like, shame and sham. Shame means name and sham means there, wherever wherever you are, that wherever your name is, that's where you are. There's a whole concept of that. There's also an idea that the gematria of shame is sefer, that it's like almost kind of like the book of your life is written, with your name, or the book of your name is written with your life. How about that? I don't know. Okay, so then we'll go into this this beautiful lesson, which is really kind of what I've been saying, but Rabbi Nachman will say it better. Or I should restate that, but we'll go to the source, Rabbi Nachman, where he says, "V'zeh zochin al yidei esek haTorah." Ki haTorah. Okay, so how do you connect to your name? That's really the question that Rabbi Nachman is answering. How do you connect to the name that you have been called, right? Even though your parents give you this name, how do you access the koach that comes through that name? And Rabbi Nachman says it's through zochin al yidei esek haTorah, that every time you learn Torah, your name is like getting filled up again, right? Like there's an energy source that's coming through your name, and every time you learn Torah, there's a like a refill of this koach. Ki haTorah hi shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because the Torah is the name of God. There are holy books that say, holy commentators that say that really the Torah is just one big name of God. That all the, there's 300,000, I can remember the number, 804, 300, something like that, 300,000, over 300,000 letters in the Sefer Torah, and it's and it's one big name of God. So that's one of the reasons why a Sefer Torah with any kind of two letters touching or a letter missing or something like that, the reason why it puzzles the whole Sefer Torah and not just, obviously now or always Sefer Torah were written in segments, so that's a very helpful way to correct a problem in a Sefer Torah, but it puzzles the entire Sefer Torah, not just, the parsha and not just the column, but the whole thing, because the whole thing is one big name, and it's like leaving out a letter in the middle of your name, and it wouldn't be your name, and it wouldn't draw down the energy of your name. So we do this. So we connect to our name by connecting to Hashem's name, which is Torah. Okay, through learning Torah, we connect to His name, which gives us koach through our name. But Hashem hu hakli shel hadavar. And the name of the thing is the vessel through which it can, receive light. It's the vessel through which it can interact with the world, right? We know that right at the beginning of Bereshis, when Adam Harishon is naming the creatures, right? There's this idea that he also, he was sort of like the Abba of, of all of them, but he had some kind of Ruach HaKodesh where he saw the essence of each thing, and he named the animal, the thing, through that Ruach HaKodesh, to draw down the essence of that animal. And so the name becomes the vessel, right? When I say lion, you automatically think of a lion because there's some kind of capturing of, of the essence of that animal through the name lion. And obviously it triggers, images in our mind because we know this word and we associate it with this essence. So the same thing, like, did you ever, I don't know if any of you had this experience where, like, someone like you were, when you had a child and, your husband wanted to pick a certain name and you're like, no, I knew someone by that name, I'm not naming that name, like, because there's some kind of like remez or flavor from a certain name that, that kind of, I don't know, rubbed you the wrong way or something like that. Right. But so like very much you think of the person, you think of a person, and then lahefech, it could happen the other way around, that you do name your baby, this, even though someone named that, or your sibling, names their child, this, and it completely changes that name for you, right? That name now becomes associated with someone that you love rather than, maybe your, I don't know, fourth grade teacher or something like that, who you didn't love so much. But it changes according to the vessel, because each vessel draws down a certain spirit into them of their name. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of us have the same names as each other, right? But we're going to go into that a little bit further later on with the Sfas Emes, because of course, nobody's name is exactly the same. How you, first of all, your parents' names aren't exactly the same as their parents' names. And there's an energy just in like the way that you say your name. No two people have the same name, even if they have the same name. Okay. So here we go. Back to Rabbi Nachman. שבהשם הזה נגבל החיס של הדבר הזה. Because through this name is within the name is contained the life force of that thing. כמו שכתוב in Bereshis, nefesh chaya hu shmo, and that's what I was saying before about Adam Arishon, not just giving things names, but by giving them the names, he drew down their essence. Shebahashem nigbal hanefesh v'achis shel kol davar, and through everything's name is brought down, their energy and their life force. Ve'al ken kishikorin et ha'adam bishmo hu mezuman techef etzlo. So when you call someone by their name, they know who you're talking about. They know it touches something deep inside of them. They know, oh, she's talking to me, he's talking to me, and they feel like there's a connection that's made, right? Mechamat shebehashem nigbal kol hanefesh v'hachiyus shelo, because his soul and life force are contained within his name. Okay, let's keep on going. So I want to go down to the Sfas Emes. Now we'll come back to this midrash up here in 1 minute, but I want to go down to it's mentioned within the Sfas Emes, so that's why I want to actually start doing the Sfas Emes first, and then we'll go back up to that midrash. So the Sfas Emes talks a lot about names, and I'm sorry, 1 second. We know that the Sfas Emes kind of comes back to themes over and over and over again over the course of many, many years. So if you were to look in a book of Sfas Emes, you would see that he addresses the same points, the same midrashim over and over and over again with slightly different nuances. So, and that's why I had to change the source sheet at the last minute, because I realized I was taking on too much, as usual. So I cut down one of the sources, but I'll probably get into it anyway. But the Sfas Emes is very, very taken with this concept of starting the book with this idea that names are something very, very powerful. So here we go. You ready? This is the pasuk. He's actually going to comment on Rashi. So Rashi says, Chazar u'mina'am lehodia chibatan, right? Remember we said he goes back and he counts them again to show or to publicize how beloved they are to him. These the Shvatim and all of Am Yisrael that went down to Mitzrayim. Shenim shelu lekochavim hamoti bamispar, that their Bnei Israel are compared to the stars that Hashem takes out, and by number, and b'shem yikra, and calls them by name. Okay, Uma inyano lechan. What is the inyan of repeating these names here? Why does the book of Shemot start with this repetition of names? So aside from all the things that we've said before in the earlier the shir, right? The idea of this love and this sort of assurance that that Hashem is paying attention to all of us. The Sfas Emes says, "V'hapashut hu la'asher yardo legalus," because Hashem wants to. La'asher is like to to confirm. Let's say they're going down into galus. But what does he mean by that? He means that it's meant to be. Okay, and the next line says, "Ba katuv la'agid ki lo haya al yedei sin'ah chas v'shalom," that Hashem sending us into galus was not done as a form of new or punishment, or I hate that nation, they keep on getting into trouble, I'm going to send them down into Mitzrayim. It's not that at all. Okay, there's a bigger picture, and Hashem is sending us down into galus because it needs to happen. 2 years ago, we had a shir on what's the point of exile anyway. You can find that online on SoundCloud, but it's for a purpose. It's not stam that Hashem is just like moving the chess pieces around the board. There's something that has to come out of the inyan, of the experience of being in galus. So he says, rak me'ahava, right? It's only out of love. And he says, kamosha kasuv, and this is in Mishlei, right? We know the Sfas Emes is constantly quoting from other sources. So I have the whole quote for you, but I don't want to bog you down with it all on the screen, okay? But the quote from Mishlei is it's familiar to everybody, right? Choshech shivto son'eh bno. What? He who spares the rod hates the child. The ohavo, and this is the part that he has here, the ohavo shicharo musar. But he who loves him disciplines him early. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, this idea that the shepherd, right, he has that like the maked, the stick, right? And we talked about how when he's counting the sheep and when he's making sure that that all the sheep are headed in the right direction, if one starts to run off to the side, so then the shepherd gives him a little whack, because he has to be reoriented, right? The shepherd doesn't want to lose that sheep, and so he hits it to get it back into place. And the sheep, in the mashal, the sheep feels this sense of like, oh, he cares about me, he doesn't want to lose me. He's echpat lo, that I don't run off, and therefore he's putting in this effort. And we know this concept of like a parent, saying no or punishing a child is always, is Bezrat Hashem, but with this group, is done out of love, out of the desire to see this child, grow into the person that we know that they can be, to be responsible, to be, all the things that we want for all of our children. That's why we ground them, when they do the wrong thing. That's why we, because it's a way to teach, and that's a way of showing love, because it matters to me what you become. It matters to me that you develop these muscles of responsibility and of morality and of depth and of compassion. And therefore, I don't just say yes, yes, yes to everything that you ask. And I don't just let you, go and do whatever you want, because it matters to me. And so therefore, that's the inyan. That's part of the idea behind galus. Okay, that Hashem is sort of disciplining us. He's sort of he's putting us in a situation where we're going to have to use our muscles, where we're going to have to develop ourselves in a deeper way. V'zeh lehodia. Where are we? Here we go. V'zeh lehodia chibatan, and that's what it means that Hashem, that Rashi quoted, that Hashem is sort of publicizing the fact that we're beloved to him, because we have to know that we are beloved to him. We have to know when we go into galus that we are beloved to him. We have to know that this is for a reason. We have to know that it's not just stam, it's happening for a purpose. Aval, the truth is, ikar amitius ha'inyan, right? The real, the sort of the inner aspect of the reason, hu al pi divrei hamidrash, okay? And this is what I have up on top, but we'll go into it in 1 second. Shmotan al shem hageula. Okay, so this is the midrash up here. It says ve'ela shmos b'nei Israel al shem geulas Yisrael nizkaru kan. So why are the names repeated here? Because they're all names that are actually going to give koach to Am Yisrael while they're in galus. And the midrash actually explains, and this is a very long midrash, and if anybody wants me to, I'll be happy to send it out, or you can look it up on Safaria, but I only brought the first two. But basically what the midrash does is it goes through all the names, right? All the names of the Shvatim are listed there, and it says Reuven, for example, Shene'emar, and this is a little bit later on in Shemos, Ra'o, Ra'iti, et ani, ami, right? I saw I have surely seen the depredation of my nation, or Shimon, which is al shem, and again a little bit later on in the second chapter, Vayishma Elokim et Naakatam. Why is Shimon named Shimon? Because it corresponds to the pasuk, and Hashem heard Bnei Israel's pleas. Okay, meaning that, and the midrash goes through each one of the names and relates it or connects it to a pasuk that brings us forward in Geula. And it's it's a very interesting idea, because what the midrash is saying, and here the Sfas Emes is actually going to say it for us, and he's quoting his grandfather, the Chiddushei Arim, Sheharot ha'reuyot legeula halchu miyad imahem, kamo shekasuv hakadosh baruch hu borei refuah kodem lemaka. Right. So the Chiddushei Arim, Sfas Emes, his grandfather, the first Ger Rebbe, he said that the lights that will like kilu illuminate or clarify or bring us to the aspect of deserving Geula went down with us into Galus. So the fact that the names of the Shvatim came down into Galus, those names are kind of like, it's actually funny. It's like the what did we just do? The escape rooms, right? We just had all these like escape rooms over Hanukkah, or, on the computer, right? So, or we did one on Sukkot, that Bagels and Lox one, that there's like a list. There's like, how do you get to the next room? You have to look through the list of clues, and you have to figure out, what you have to solve the puzzle, and then you can get to the next room. So that's what this reminded me of, right? That like Ela Shemot B'nei Israel, because these are the clues that you need in order to break out of Mitzrayim. These are the clues. These are the steps that need to happen, or these are the character traits that we have to work on, or these are the vitamins that we have to swallow, or these are the aspects of ourselves that we have to bring out in order to get to Geula, and all of that. Those are all the tools that we needed to get to Geula. They went down with us into Galus, and like it says, right, like the Chiddushei Arim is quoting that Hakadosh Baruch Hu borei refuah kodem lamaka. and this is like a perfect week for saying this, right? Even though it wasn't really, it didn't feel to us like it was Kodem, right? But the whole idea of vaccinations, the whole idea of vaccines obviously was invented, long before they needed to make a corona vaccine. But, Baruch Hashem, I actually got mine today. So my arm's a little sore. That Hashem does bring the cure before the disease. We only see that, looking backwards. We know that, in our own lives on a personal level, we often see that, oh, I had to get out of this situation. In order to get out of this situation, in order to grow from this situation, I needed this, ability, or this, I need to learn this lesson. And really that lesson started, I started learning that lesson when I was, 5 years old or something, whatever it was, that we often can look back and say, oh, I did have all the tools at my disposal. I just didn't realize it. And that's really what the Sfas Emes is saying here. Okay, but then he has another idea, another concept that he brings out. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute and, chime in. Okay, so he says, here, where are we? Okay, right here in the middle. Yeah, everybody's with me. You can see my my cursor. Okay, v'zeh atzmo inyan hashemos dichtiv. And this is the same quote from Yeshayahu that we learned before. L'kulam b'shem yikra. And this is really the etzem of the idea of the names, where it says that Hashem calls each one of them by name. Ki kol kochav v'malach shenivra al davar miyuchad la'asot shlichut habore yisbarach ba'olam. That every single star and every single angel and every single person and every single thing, right, in the world, but let's talk about people, right, that was created, is created with a special, right, al davar miyuchad la'asot shlichut, that we were put here to do some kind of mission, some kind of job, right? We were put here, each one of us, for a specific purpose, a special mission for Hashem in this world. Lachen nikba bo mikodem shem elyon, and therefore each one of us was given it was like determined above what our names would be, because that name is the tool, or are the tools that we will need in order to fulfill our specific purpose in this world. Shemitzad zeh, sorry, I'm like, I have notes in the book down here, so I'm reading from my book, so I'm just trying to keep along with both places. Shemitzad zeh tidabek hapeula b'koach elyon. So and the whole idea is that in order to get the koach to fulfill our specific mission in this world, we have to connect to the koach elyon that will come down through our name. Kedeita b'Gemara, like it says in the Gemara, al pasuk vayikra or yom. Okay, I'm gonna actually read this. I know it's on the sheet in front of you, but I have to read it with vowels because it's Gemara and it's challenging. Okay, so I have to find it. Sorry. Where am I? Oh, here we go. Okay. He says, okay, so the Sfas Emes starts to say it. He says, Hidi'ita b'Gemara, al pasuk vayikra or yom, kare rachmana l'nahora, that Hashem, right, on the pasuk that he called the light day, right? That he called the from the story of creation, that he called, that Hashem, vayhi erev vayhi boker yom echad, right? That he called the daytime. Sorry, he called to the light, and he said, you're now going to be called day. Okay, but let me read it in the sorry, in the original. Karye Rachamana Lenahora, he called over the light. Ufakte amitzvata dimama. And he commanded it to perform the mitzvah of day. Okay, so meaning this is the essence. The essence is light, and light is going to do this special mitzvah or this special mission in this world, which is called day. And each one of us has that. Okay, and it goes on because it says Vikare Rachmana the Chashucha, and then he called over darkness, Ufakte amitzvata delela, and he commanded it to do the mitzvah of night. Okay, meaning he is giving each one of those aspects the name that will enable them to do their job in the world. And each one of us is the same thing. Each one of us has a name that is enabling us to do our specific mission, our specific job in this world. Okay, Perush, Kriya Lashon Chiba. Now, there's another aspect of this, which is that Kriya, we learned last year, I think it was, and Bezrat Hashem we'll come to it again this year, but that at the very beginning of Sefer Vayikra, when the Torah tells us Vayikra El Moshe, we know that it's written with that small aleph, right? And the most famous perush on that it's written with the small aleph is that Vayikra, Rashi tells us, and the Midrash tells us, is a language of endearment. It's like Hashem was calling out to Moshe, and he was saying, Moshe, my sweet, my sweet boy, come here, like that. And that's how Hashem always called to him. But here, because it was sort of like, there's a big deal made out of it. It's the first word of a sefer that Moshe Rabbeinu was like very, very humble, and he didn't want to make it seem like, there was too, that he was too special. So he put that little aleph in there. But Rashi tells us that every time that Hashem spoke to Moshe, he actually started like that. He always started Vayikra El Moshe. Vayikra, that Moshe, my sweetheart, my dear boy, come here and come and talk to me. The same way that, when we call our children and we say like, sweetheart, come here, or honey, or whatever endearment we call them, that's called Vayikra. Okay. So when it says that Hashem called, light over and gave it the mitzvah of day, there's this language of like, I believe in you. I'm calling you this. I'm giving you this job. I'm giving you this task because I love you and I believe in you that you can do this. V'dveikus, and connection. Kamo v'kara ze el ze, right? And we know that that's from the vision of Yeshayahu. With the angels, we say it all, during Kedusha, v'kara ze el ze ve'amar. They would call to each other and they would say, Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvaot, right? This was like their, pep talk, this like cheer, the what's it called? Like the I don't know, whatever, the cheer of the angels in Shamayim, we work for Hashem and Hashem is so holy and it's so awesome, right? So we copy them and we say that during Kedusha. And the whole idea is that we're like excited about it because we're with our we're connecting to each other through the force of that like teamwork. Okay. And we did a beautiful Eish Kodesh last year about the Kara Zeh and that there's some language of like giving something to each other when we call each other like that, when we turn to each other, when we Kara Zeh, when we call to each other, when we give to each other, there's very much a connection being made. V'zeh shekatuv lekulam b'shem yikra shehu hidavkut kol tzva marom v'shama dichlel kol shmehan. That every time we that the whole idea of that right? The pasuk that we the other source that we had at the beginning from a different part of Yeshayahu, where it says that every time Hashem takes out the stars, he calls them by name. This is the idea that through this connection, right? We're forming like I love what it says. Tzva Marom is like, the host of the heavens, but for us, it's like Tzivas Hashem, right? That each one of us, our name is Ki'ilu, like our membership card in Tzivas Hashem. As we call ourselves by our Hebrew name, our Jewish name, so then we're accenting that connection, that membership that we have in the army of Hashem to do Hashem's purpose in this world, and it connects us to His name. Vehu Shem Kavod Malchuso, right? And His name is the greatest name. He is the King. He is the Blessed One. And as we connect ourselves to Him, so then we strengthen ourselves. We bring down more of His light into this world. Okay, let's keep on going. ומצד שיש לכל פרט חלק מיוחד נמצא על ידי זה מונה מספר לכולם. And therefore, because every single person has a specific special part to him, a special mission, a special soul, a uniqueness to them. So that's why it says that, Hashem counts them and it's this language of like preciousness. וכמו כן, ממש באיש הישראלי שיש לכל אחד שם מיוחד שצריך לתקנו. And therefore, everyone has this specific, special, unique name. And that name gives us like a job, okay? A mission that we have to fix, a mission that we have to perform in this world. ובוודאי, כשגומר Ma'asav l'tova nishalem b'zeh shmo. And when we finish, like complete that mission in this world, then our name is basically complete. But they're in a different place. The Sfas Emes says that like this idea of completing one mission just gives you like a different name. And I think that there's like a beautiful example of that, of like when you're little and you have this like little nickname, and then you get older and you kind of grow out of that nickname. So that kind of expresses that aspect of that really each mission enables us to at every stage of our life, we're growing like deeper and deeper and taking on more sort of meaning in our name. Okay, but now he brings in a different idea, which I think is really, really important. ואותן השמות שהם כוחות הנפשות, הם עצמם מסייעים לאדם להוציא לאור תיקונו. And those names that are, the name itself helps a person draw down that koach of his nefesh or her nefesh. The name itself is a tool through which we strengthen ourselves. We connect to our mission in this world, and that name itself helps a person bring out their own light. And that's why it says these are the names of Bnei Israel who come. Klomar shelo ya'aleh al hadat chas v'shalom ki hagalos v'ken kol es tzara la'adam shelo taveh hu b'mikre. We should never think that that the galus or any tzara that we face in our lives, that it has come upon us b'mikre. It's not coincidence. It's not, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's not like that. U'ke'ilu azav Hashem otanu chas v'shalom. And as if Hashem has, left us, chas v'shalom. Rak shekoach hadveikus holech imanu begalus. But the koach, the strength of connection, went with us or goes with us on a daily basis into galus. Ka'asher amarnu, and he says this in a different place, but ledayek bemilat haba'im mitzrayim. And that's why he focuses on this word that's in present tense, right? Why does it say haba'im mitzrayim? Like we said in the beginning, why not ba'u? That would be more appropriate, right? No, because these are the names that are coming to Mitzrayim constantly. Shehu al kol minei hametzarim sheyesh lebnei Israel tamid. Because where does the word Mitzrayim come from, or what's it related to? The concept of metzarim, of limitations, of being in a tight spot, being in a something, a restrictive place, being, stuck, okay? Being, feeling like we're, closed off from the world, okay? When we feel that way, we're in Mitzrayim, we're in Metzarim over and over and over again. And it could happen 30 times in one day. These days, it could probably happen even 300 times in one day. Certain time periods more than others, but each one of us in her own life, in different aspects, feels this all the time. But the whole idea is, v'gam ze emet beperush hakatuv, shegam hashemot hem yordin letoch hametzar, v'gam hem begalus. And he says this in a different place, which is what I sent out originally, but I knew we weren't going to get to it, and I don't want to make you guys, it's like already so late. But he says basically that's why the Torah says that the names are coming down, right? Ki'ilu, like Eila Shemot B'nai Israel Haba'im. These are the names that are coming down, not just the people that are coming down, but that the names are coming down. Because the names also go into the Meitzar. Like as you go into a Meitzar, your name is going into the Meitzar. But they also, Umitzad zeh, where am I? Umitzad zeh noshin b'nei Yisrael begaliotehem. But they will also be part of the Yeshua, right? The name itself is part of the Yeshua, like we saw in the Midrash, right? That Reuven is from the pasuk Ra'o Ra'iti et Ani Ami, right? He was called Reuven because it helped Hashem to see us. He's called Shimon because it helped Hashem to hear us, or not helped Hashem, but helped us to know that Hashem was hearing us. How about that, right? That though the names themselves were part of the koach of coming out. The names themselves were something to hold on to help lift us out. Klal hadvarim shekodem galus Mitzrayim nitkashru b'koach hashoresh lemala, kmo hakochavim shenotlin reshus mikodem la'asos hashlichus v'hu devekos hashlichus b'koach habore v'haven. Okay, so he's saying that when we were, right, Kodem Galus Mitzrayim, right, before they were in Galus Mitzrayim, so they were connected to the Koach of the Shoresh, right, meaning they're connected to their root. And before we go down into any of our Meitzarim, right, before we came into this world, we were connected to our Shoresh, in our Shoresh, to Hashem. And that connection comes down to us continuously in the form of our name. And as long as we have our name and we are, aware of this, then our name becomes this very, very powerful tool, just like the stars that, that are given this shlichus in the world. And therefore, because they know that they are on shlichus, they have the koach of the one that sent them. And so too with us, that when we know that we've come into this world and we have, yes, we've gone into Gullus. Yes, we are, in Meitzarim. Yes, we are in experiencing some really, really challenging circumstances right now. But we came in here with the refuah before the makkah. We came in here because each one of us we came in here with the strength to keep on going forward, because each one of us has a name. In our name, there is this continuous connection to Hashem. In our name, there's a continuous source of strength. In a different piece, he calls it a ma'ayan of koach, a wellspring of koach. But like Rabbi Nachman said, one of the ways, or the way, that we can feel this is through learning Torah. right? And I feel this. I mean, I will tell you flat out that, you know, this is the high point of my week. You know, coming on here and seeing you beautiful ladies, and, you know, learning Torah with you, and you know, preparing obviously also, is really something that is giving me the koach to, you know, this is Tuesday, and Bezrat Hashem, I will see you again next Tuesday, and, you know, that's the koach between, you know, from one week to the next, that we are continuing our journey together. As much as we feel like we're in Mitzarim, we're also, you know, we can also find, you know, points of Geula. So I'll give us all a bracha that, that when people call our names this week, V'simcha Chana, and when people call our names this week, and whether the name is our actual name or, you know, the other part of our name, which is mommy or ima, or however you are called in your home, that it should, I don't know, we could like open up a place in our hearts that it should feel like actually every time someone calls us by our name, let's open up the pathway to feel like a chizuk, to feel like, okay, I'm being acknowledged, I'm being counted, I'm being, you know, there's a some level of vayikra, you know, there's some level of lovingness there. There's some level of being beloved, and there's some level of someone using our name brings down a what's the word, I don't know, a shower of koach onto us. So that was a very long bracha, but may we all be blessed to just keep on moving forward, and to use all of the tools that are at our disposal, including coming together like this to be strengthened. Shavua Tov, everyone. Be well, stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Shoshana. You give us strength.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Good night.